There is a mask you have been wearing for so long that you have forgotten it is even there. It is the smile you put on when someone asks how you are doing. It is the laugh you force when you are dying inside. It is the phrase you have said so many times that it has become a reflex, an automatic response that costs you nothing to give and everything to maintain. I am fine. 2 words. 4 letters in the second one. And behind those 4 letters is an ocean of pain, exhaustion, confusion, and loneliness that you have never let anyone see. Not because you do not want to, but because somewhere along the way you learned that your pain was not welcome, that showing struggle was weakness, that being okay was the price of being loved. If you are someone who smiles through the worst days of your life, who comforts others while silently falling apart, who has mastered the art of looking fine while feeling absolutely shattered, then this is not just a video. This is a mirror, because there is a deep, documented psychology behind why you do this. And it did not start with you. This is the psychology of people who pretend they are fine. Let us begin with something important. The fact that you hide your pain does not mean you are fake. It does not mean you are dishonest. And it does not mean you are manipulating anyone. What it means is that at some point in your life, vulnerability became dangerous, and your mind, in its relentless effort to protect you, created a shield. Psychologists call this emotional masking, and it is one of the most common but least talked about psychological defense mechanisms. Unlike denial, where the person genuinely does not recognize their own pain, emotional masking is fully conscious. You know you are hurting, you know you are not fine, but you choose to present a version of yourself that hides it. And this is not weakness. This is a highly sophisticated form of emotional intelligence. Research published in the journal Emotion found that individuals who engage in expressive suppression, the deliberate hiding of emotional responses, tend to have heightened emotional awareness. They feel more, not less. They simply learn to contain what they feel because at some point, expressing it had consequences. You are not someone who lacks emotion. You are someone who carries too much of it and has learned that the world cannot handle what you actually feel. So you compress it. You file it away. You put it in a box labeled later, and you keep moving. The irony is that the people who pretend to be fine are often the most emotionally intelligent people in the room. They are the ones who notice when someone else is struggling. They are the first to offer comfort. They are the ones who hold space for everyone else's pain while quietly suffocating under their own. And they do all of this without ever being asked, because taking care of others is easier than admitting that they need to be taken care of too. This pattern almost always begins in childhood, and it usually starts with one of 2 experiences. The first is emotional parentification. This is a clinical term for what happens when a child is placed in the role of emotional caretaker for a parent or family system. Maybe your mother was depressed and you became her confidant at age 7. Maybe your father was angry and you learned that the only way to keep the peace was to suppress your own feelings and manage his. Maybe your parents were so consumed by their own problems, finances, marital conflict, addiction, that there was simply no space left for yours. In these families, the child learns a devastating equation. My feelings equal burden. If I express pain, it creates more pain. If I am fine, everyone else can be fine. And so the child begins to perform wellness. They learn to smile when they are scared. They learn to say everything is okay when nothing is. They learn that love is conditional on being low maintenance. The second origin is emotional punishment. This happens when a child expresses a genuine emotion and is met with ridicule, dismissal, or anger. You cried and were told to stop being dramatic. You expressed fear and were told there is nothing to be afraid of. You showed sadness and were told you have nothing to be sad about. You reached for comfort and were told to toughen up. Each of these responses sends the same message. What you feel is wrong. And when a child hears that message enough times, they stop expressing what they feel. Not because they stopped feeling it, but because they learned that feeling things out loud is not safe. By the time this child becomes an adult, the mask is no longer a choice. It is automatic. They do not even think about whether to say they are fine. The words come out before the brain has a chance to consider an alternative. And the tragedy is that they have been wearing this mask for so long that they have lost touch with what their real face looks like. This is not a habit. This is a survival adaptation built in childhood and reinforced by every interaction that rewarded the performance and punished the truth. People who pretend they are fine follow a remarkably consistent behavioral pattern, and once you understand it, you will recognize it immediately, either in yourself or in someone you love. The first pattern is the deflection reflex. When asked how they are doing, they do not pause. They do not consider. They immediately redirect. They say, "I am fine. How are you?" shifting the focus to the other person before anyone can look too closely at them. This is not politeness. This is psychological self-defense. The second pattern is invisible withdrawal. Whilst they do not disappear dramatically, they do not announce that they are struggling. Instead, they slowly, gradually, almost imperceptibly reduce their emotional availability. They respond to messages a little slower. They cancel plans a little more often. They smile a little less genuinely. And because they never make a scene, nobody notices until they are already gone, emotionally or sometimes physically. The third pattern is the caretaker trap. People who hide their own pain often become the designated caretaker in every relationship. They are the friend everyone calls when they need support. They are the partner who always checks in first. They are the coworker who absorbs everyone else's stress. And they do this not because they are selfless, but because helping others provides a sense of purpose that distracts from the emptiness they feel inside. The fourth pattern is delayed emotional collapse. Because these individuals suppress emotions in real time, those emotions do not disappear. They accumulate. And at some point, often during a seemingly minor event, the dam breaks. They cry over a dropped coffee cup. They explode over a misplaced comment. They have a breakdown in the shower on a random Tuesday. And everyone around them is confused because from the outside, nothing happened. But from the inside, everything has been happening for months. They were just too good at hiding it. The fifth pattern is the apology response. When their pain finally does surface, when someone catches a glimpse of what is behind the mask, the first thing they do is apologize. "I am sorry. I did not mean to make this about me. I am fine, really." They apologize for being human. They apologize for needing. They apologize for existing in a way that takes up space. And that apology is not politeness. It is the echo of every moment in their childhood when they learned that their pain was an inconvenience. The research on emotional suppression tells a story that most people are not ready to hear. A groundbreaking study by psychologist James Gross at Stanford University found that chronic emotional suppression does not reduce the internal experience of negative emotions. It only reduces the external expression. This means that people who hide their pain are not feeling less. They are feeling the exact same amount of pain as someone who expresses it openly, but they are bearing that load entirely alone. What is worse, the study found that suppression actually amplifies the physiological stress response. Heart rate increases, blood pressure rises, cortisol floods the system. The body is in a constant state of low-level emergency because it is carrying emotional weight that was never meant to be carried in silence. Research published in the journal Psychosomatic Medicine linked chronic emotional suppression to increased risk of cardiovascular disease, weakened immune function, and higher rates of chronic pain conditions. The body, it turns out, keeps score. When you do not express emotional pain through words, the body expresses it through symptoms. A large-scale study conducted at the University of Texas found that individuals who habitually suppressed their emotions were significantly more likely to experience depression, anxiety, and substance use disorders. Not because they were predisposed to these conditions, but because suppression creates an emotional pressure cooker with no release valve. Perhaps most importantly, research in attachment theory has shown that people who pretend to be fine often develop what psychologists call dismissive avoidant attachment. They learned early that depending on others leads to disappointment, so they became fiercely independent. They handle everything alone. They ask for nothing. And while this looks like strength from the outside, from the inside, it is isolation dressed in competence. The science is unambiguous. Pretending to be fine is not neutral. It is an active process that costs your body, your mind, and your relationships more than most people will ever realize. Let us be honest about what this actually looks like. It looks like sitting in your car for 10 minutes before going inside because you need a moment to put yourself back together. It looks like going to the bathroom at a party, not because you need to, but because you need 60 seconds where you do not have to perform. It looks like typing, "I am not okay" in a text message and then deleting it, and typing, "Haha, yeah, I am good" instead. It looks like being the one everyone leans on while having absolutely no one to lean on yourself. It looks like crying in the shower because it is the only place where no one can hear you. It looks like lying awake at night replaying every moment where you almost told someone the truth but stopped yourself because you did not want to be a burden. It looks like hearing someone say you are so strong and wanting to scream because you are not strong. You are exhausted. You are not choosing to carry this. You just do not know how to put it down. And the loneliest moment is not when you are alone. The loneliest moment is when you are surrounded by people who think they know you, people who love you, people who would help you if you asked but you cannot ask. Because the voice in your head, the one that has been there since childhood, says if they knew the real you, they would leave. If they saw the mess behind the mask, they would not stay. So you keep performing, you keep smiling, you keep saying, "I am fine." And every time you do, the distance between who you really are and who the world thinks you are grows a little wider. And that distance, that gap between your mask and your truth, is where loneliness lives. Not the loneliness of being alone. The loneliness of being surrounded by people and still being completely unseen. Here is what the world gets completely wrong about people who pretend to be fine. The world tells them to open up. Just be honest. Just tell people how you feel, as if vulnerability is a switch you can flip, as if decades of conditioning can be undone by a motivational quote, as if the person who learned at age 5 that their tears caused more problems than they solved can suddenly start crying in front of other adults because someone on the internet said it was okay. Vulnerability is not the cure. Not yet. Not first. The first step is not opening up. The first step is safety. Before a person who has spent their entire life masking can begin to unmask, they need evidence that it is safe to do so. They need one person, just one, who does not flinch when the truth comes out, who does not try to fix it, who does not say at least you have or it could be worse, who simply sits with them in the mess and says, "I see you, and I am not going anywhere." The world also gets wrong who these people are. It assumes that the person who pretends to be fine is the quiet one, the introvert, the obvious sufferer. But often it is the opposite. It is the funniest person in the room, the most successful, the most put together, the one who always has advice for everyone else. Because the best mask is not a blank expression. The best mask is a brilliant smile. If you want to find the person who is pretending to be fine, do not look for sadness. Look for perfection. Look for the person who never has a bad day, who never needs anything, who never breaks down. That person is not okay. They have just gotten very, very good at making it look like they are. If this is you, here is what you need to know. You do not have to tear off the mask all at once. That is not how healing works. You can start with something so small that it feels almost insignificant, but carries immense power. Start with micro-honesty. The next time someone asks how you are, instead of saying fine, try saying honestly, "Today is a little rough." You do not have to explain. You do not have to elaborate. Just crack the door open by 1 inch and see what happens. Practice what psychologists call selective vulnerability. You do not need to open up to everyone. You need one safe person. One person you can practice truth-telling with. One person who has shown through their actions, not just their words, that they can hold what you give them. Begin journaling not for productivity, but for emotional discharge. Write the things you cannot say out loud. Give your pain a place to exist outside of your body. Research from the University of Texas shows that expressive writing for just 15 minutes a day significantly reduces symptoms of depression and anxiety. And most importantly, begin to challenge the core belief that drives all of this. The belief that says, "My pain is a burden." Your pain is not a burden. Your pain is a message. It is telling you where you need healing, and you deserve to receive that healing just as much as every person you have ever helped. You have spent your entire life making sure everyone around you is okay. It is time to extend that same compassion to the one person you have always neglected. If you have listened to every word of this, I need you to hear something. The mask you wear has served you well. It has gotten you through things that would have broken other people. It has kept you safe. It has kept you functional. And for that, it deserves respect, not shame. But the mask was always meant to be temporary. It was armor for a war that ended a long time ago. And you are still wearing it, not because you need it, but because you forgot that you have a choice. You are allowed to not be fine. You are allowed to take up space with your pain. You are allowed to be the one who needs something for once. And letting people see the truth of who you are is not weakness. It is the bravest thing a person who has spent their life hiding could ever do. So the next time someone asks you how you are doing, consider, even for just a moment, telling the truth. Not for them, for you. Because you have been fine for long enough. And you deserve to finally be real. This is Unspoken Minds. And if no one has told you today, you do not have to carry this alone.